Hello, and this is Michelle Lanter-Smith from ePay Systems, and today we're glad to have you on the phone with us. We're talking about strategies to combat the labor shortage, how to retain your workers and keep your clients. Joining me today is John Gotti. He is our lead senior sales engineer here at ePay. Thank you, John, for joining me.
Thank you, Michelle, and thank you everybody that joined us today.
Well, we have a lot to talk to you about today, and are pretty excited about sharing some information with you and giving you a glimpse of perhaps how ePay can help you in this very critical area of retaining your employees and, of course, retaining your clients. We're going to talk a little bit about ePay very, very quick, but get into a discussion on the labor shortage and then really the nuts and bolts of why do clients leave, why do workers leave, and then look at some solutions and ideas for you of how you can really keep this under wraps or how you can improve your turnover. Because we all know that this is a very expensive time right now because people are constantly coming in and out of your business, and it's a really tough labor market. Anybody that hires is feeling that right now. So we're excited to share some ideas with you. A little bit about ePay. Well, ePay's been in the time and labor business since 2001. We're here in Chicago, and we provide a full unified human capital management solution, all the way from applicant tracking, HR, onboarding, payroll, time and attendance, even performance management, and learning management. We, though, specialize in focusing on clients that have the workforce that's very hard to track, hard to manage, and hard to pay. Tends to be the hourly blue-collar workforce. We specialize there because our workforce management system is truly an industry leader in its space because of the flexibility that we have. And you'll get a sneak peek of that today. But we can handle any workforce workflow, really tough payroll permutations, things like that. And that makes us, allows us to give our clients really the ability to have the visibility and the reporting and the analytics to help control those labor costs. On top of that, we know that time and attendance can be a little bit more challenging when it comes to the field and supporting the field. And so we offer a premium 24/7 support all the time to our clients. And this helps our clients really get ad hoc training, help when they need it, and so on. Because of that, we have a retention of 98%. And so we're really proud of that. You can see some of our logos there at the bottom of the screen. We have many government accounts like the U.S. Census, the Department of Defense, the U.S. Army specifically, some large contracting services organizations, all the way to some medium and small organizations too. So let's talk about the labor shortage and what we're all dealing with right now. You know, for a record 16 months straight, the number of open jobs in the U.S. has been higher than the number of people looking for work. Wow. I didn't know that statistic until we really started digging into this, and our research team found that. Isn't that amazing, John, that for 16 months straight, there are more jobs open than people looking?
That is. I mean, it's an unbelievable stat to think that, you know, there's a job out there for really everybody, but there's not, everybody to fill it.
That's exactly right. The U.S. economy had 7.4 million job openings in June, but only 6 million people were looking for work. It's a huge contributing factor to the labor shortage, and it's why all of us are pulling out our hair trying to fill our open positions. You know, on top of that, in April, 3.5 million workers quit their jobs, the highest number ever recorded in a single month, with layoffs and firings remaining at record lows. So we got people moving around from job to job, right, in addition to having all these openings. So, what does that mean? It means competition for getting labor is getting a whole lot harder, as I'm sure that's why you guys are on this session today, because of the topic that we're discussing. You're not just competing for jobs, but you're competing for workers. And it means that you have to keep focused on those current employees that you have, retaining them, as opposed to going out and finding new ones. So, John, what does the labor shortage mean for the hourly workforce specifically, the workforce that we like to focus on?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of uncertainty, right? With labor shortages, there's a recipe for loss of valuable clients, not being able to retain them just because you're not providing the same type of service that you were, beforehand. Because you're losing employees that were good employees that may be getting, a quarter of a dollar hour better than they were before, just to leave. But you're losing those good employees. You also see increased costs, right? Because in order to find somebody, you may have to pay them a little bit more. So you're going to see an increase in cost because of that. You also see from lower productivity because there's not enough workers to fulfill all the obligations that you have. And then, you end up with potential compliance violations, right, from hiring individuals that you wouldn't normally consider as favorable. They may have some issues that came in the past. They may not have the right skills that are right for those positions or even the experience behind that to really know what to do in different instances, right? So there's a lot of different areas that are coming into play here that seem to be causing a lot of these issues as well.
Yeah, certainly causes a lot of uncertainty. And asking yourself, why would workers leave you? And I think we all have to think about that in terms of our turnover. Why is it? Well, it could be for the reasons that you see right there on the screen. They're not getting paid correctly or on time, right? So there's issues with payroll. They aren't being given reasonable enough notice of their schedules. We're going to talk about that. So they don't know when they're working. That's a huge dissatisfier. And in today's market, people want a work-life balance. They want to know when they're working, when they're not. They're not doing set up for success to do their jobs well. So they're not getting that training and feeling like they can do their job or go to the next, or they don't know what to do when they get there, or maybe there's not even the language of choice that they prefer to learn in or talk in, and they don't have the opportunities to grow their pay, so, or even more of the responsibility. So let's take a deeper dive into each one of these and really think about why are our employees looking. Well, first is getting paid correctly. A study of hourly workers in New York, Chicago, and LA found that 1 out of 4 were incorrectly paid, 25%. Some were cheated out of as much as $1 an hour, with the average paycheck shorted by $51 per week. That adds up to more than $2,600 a year. That's a lot of money. How many employees do you have? So those of you with us, think, how many employees do you have? What would that number look like you have? Number of employees times $2,600 a year. It's a lot of money that's not getting paid out correctly. And according to the Wage and Hour Division of the Department of Labor, $1.3 billion in back wages have been recovered in the last 5 years. So that's looking backwards and looking at how people have not gotten paid correctly. $1.3 billion. So you keep those two numbers in mind, it's really no wonder employees are checking their paychecks, want to see their time stubs, their time cards, their punches, whatever, to make sure they're correct. And they're hearing it on the news all the time. That we know. To make sure your employees are sticking around, you want to make sure you're paying them correctly and on time. And that means being able to process their garnishments correctly, and those deductions coming out right, any other withholding, any type of off-cycle pay, overtime work, bonus work, blended overtime, when they're working at different places, for sites, getting the minimum wages right, shift differentials, working at night, whatever, meal breaks, the list goes on and on. So it really means that employees want to know for sure that you have the right workforce management solution, obviously, too. They also want to be able to sign off on hours, so they, of course, can double check and know and feel confident. Next one, efficient scheduling. More than half of employees receive their schedules a week or less in advance, and they experience fluctuations in the number of hours they'll work. That's why many states and cities right now are starting to implement the Fair Workweek Ordinance.
So, Michelle, what exactly is the Fair Workweek laws entail?
Well, every Fair Workweek Ordinance is unique. Most require employers to provide workers with 1, advance notice of schedules, often up to 14 days notice. 2, compensation for schedules changed on short notice. 3, the right to decline hours without penalty. 4, mandatory rest periods between shifts. So complying with these ordinances are not only necessary to avoid legal fines or potential public relation nightmares, but they help manage expectations for your employees and the clients that depend on your employees to come out and work for them if you're, in the contracting service business. If you give your employees scheduling flexibility, the ability to swap or bid hours, and even see their schedule on, even schedule them at the work sites that are close to their proximity, where they live, they feel more in control, and they're less likely to be a no-show or even look for a new job. So our research shows that scheduling is very important. Number 3, you got to set people up for success, right? And we all know that. So you got to think through the things that are critical to them to be successful. And this is a big reason why people get frustrated with their jobs when they don't feel they can be successful. Imagine if you came to work and you're at a new location and you don't know what you're supposed to do. Or worse, the instructions for what you're supposed to do are in another language and it's not your first language. Or you have to wait in line so long to clock in or out that you are marked as late. I hear these stories all the time. That would lead to a lot of annoyance and frustration on the job. And that frustrated employee is the face of your company for your client. That means you have the potential not to lose the employee, and they're unhappy, but also to directly reflect your company to your client. So how can you make it easier for your employees to get their jobs done correctly and quickly so they stay happy and they don't leave? Think about software that's multilingual. John, you got ideas too. What other things can happen?
Yeah, you want to be able to give them instructions for what to do at the actual job site. Because if they go there, they don't really know what to do. Even if they're a new employee, that's even a great thing to be able to do, to say, hey, you clock in, just download the instructions, you'll see, exactly what you need to do. Or, maybe you're giving them some sort of training to help make sure that they're trained properly. Multiple ways to be able to quickly punch in and punch out to get their time is also another way, because maybe not everybody has mobile, although we're in the day and age where mobile is pretty much everywhere. But maybe there's a client that says, no, they can't use their cell phone there. So then you have to have alternatives to that, right? And they need to be able to use it, and it also needs to be friendly for that. But they also need to be able to check things as well, right? They get a schedule change, they want to be notified of that schedule change, or hey, there's a swap that came up, or there's new shifts to be bid on. Those are different things that you want to be able to send notifications to them so that they can easily look at that information and say, okay, great, this is where I'm scheduled, this is what I need to do, right? So you give them that visibility, even from just a company announcement standpoint too. When you want to communicate with them, you want to have a platform that allows you to communicate with them on a regular basis as well.
Yeah, very good point. Growth opportunities. As I mentioned earlier, in April, 3.5 million workers quit their jobs, the highest number ever recorded in a single month. What does that mean when more of your employees are leaving for better jobs? How can you really blame them? How can you stop them? Nobody wants to stay at a job where they can't improve their wages and increase their responsibilities. Even hourly workers are looking for ways to boost their pay. That is what we all do. So how can you give your employees a path to grow and show them that you're invested in their future so that they stick around? Offering continuous training and upskilling opportunities through like a learning management system, something they can learn online and pick up new tasks, or even just not even to upskill, just so they know how to do their job better, and have continuous feedback on their goals and how they're performing and doing their job. These are ways that they can understand, get good feedback, and learn how they can grow and how they can get more.
And also give them a path to go by as well. So, hey, if you follow this path, this is where you can end up as well. So, that's part of learning management to set that career path for them.
So that was a little talk about employees, and I'm sure many of you have seen this, have thought about this. Hopefully some of the statistics are important for you and you can use them. But why would clients leave you? You know, why are they leaving? Let's dig into that. So the main reasons really is if you're not making it easy for them to do business with you, if you're not making it affordable, if you're not meeting your SLAs, upholding your contract, and if you're opening them up to potential litigation because of false claims, if you're not being accountable to what your contract says that you will produce and what you're supposed to, in terms of, provide to your employees working this contract for you. So let's take a closer look into each one. Boy, we've seen this little guy before. Easy to do business with. Easy to put that on a slide. It's hard to make it happen. I guess that's what good managers do, right? So what are one of the reasons why your clients could be looking in those? You could be making it unintentionally difficult for clients to do business with you. How many hours does it take for your client to approve your staff's hours? So if you're in a contracting services type of organization or staffing, temporary work, gig at work, and your client needs to look at those hours, are you making it difficult? Are they not able to see it? Are you faxing it over? Are you, is it a pain for them to do that, to approve it? Is it just another step? Does somebody else have a better way to give their clients insight into those hours? So those are the things that they may want to see improved. Do you have the ability to meet the workforce environment there, customize pay rules, set up the workflows correctly? Is it difficult for you? This is something maybe where your clients want to see the issue, but is it hard for you to set up your new clients all the time? Again, this happens to be in the staffing organizations, right? They're constantly adding new clients. Is it a headache? Does it take a long time to onboard them and bring them on? Instead of taking a client and you're ready to rock and roll the next day, is it taking you weeks? Well, that's not easy to do business with. Again, if any of these things are causing issues and headaches, they may be hunting. So what does it mean to you? You need to have a solution that makes approving or verifying hours a breeze, giving complete visibility into your shared workforce. And let you set up those clients very quickly. You also need a system. Maybe it's not that they can view the hours. Maybe they don't want to use their own. They want to get rid of time and attendance that your folks are using at the site, and they want to use your system. So they want access to be able to do that, or the flexibility to enter those hours and so on, and using your system. So if you're in, especially this information here is really towards staffing, and anybody that does staffing, you need to think about the client and what are the tools you're giving them.
Yeah, also empower your employees that are working there to make the right decisions. They ask them to do something that's, going to be helpful for them. Allow them to do that, but, know that you can build back to those clients as well.
Exactly. So, in an overwhelming competitive landscape, your clients probably know that they can find a cheaper solution for their labor demand just by looking. There's always probably somebody that's willing to do it cheaper. You want to be able to give them, though, the most affordable price, but still be able to maintain a profit. So how do you do that? That really means you need to have a good handle on your costs, the visibility into all your costs. You want to be able to do good job costing, to be able to understand how each job is performing in terms of profitability. You want to be able to figure out how you can squeeze more margin out, and that takes good tools, good time and labor tools, budgeting tools, and analytic tools to be able to do that. And if you know, and your client knows, you're giving them the best deal you possibly can because of the tools that you have at your fingertips, you probably A, to keep them, and 2, hopefully protect your margin.
Yeah, I've actually heard some of our clients say, hey, this is the reason why I can give you this price point is because I use this technology, right? Mm-hmm. And I've heard customer stories around that. That's how they win some business as well.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So service level agreements and ensuring SLAs is always critical, and that's probably the quickest thing that will cause a client to leave you. You know, imagine that you're a client who has been promised 10 employees at a work site, and periodically 2 or 3 of them just don't show up or even call in. That would reflect poorly on your company, because what they expected to get done at that work site is not getting done. It'll reflect poorly on you. It'll reflect poorly on your client, because they're not getting their work done. So it's not a good deal all the way around. So how do you ensure that doesn't happen? Well, the first thing you want to do is schedule workers who are close to the work site. You want to have good proximity, ones that have the right certification, things like that. And if they don't show up, you want to know right away. Absolutely. Maybe you want to know before even your client knows that they're not there. And so you need to know that they haven't punched in.
Right, and think about that phone call that you get if that person isn't there, right? When you don't know that they weren't there, it's a difficult phone call. But when you're alerted to it, you're already on top of it. So by the time you get a call from your client, you're already telling them, yeah, I know this, I have so-and-so coming in. Or you can even stay ahead of the game and call them and say, hey, I understand we only have 9 people. I have 1 more on the way right now. Don't worry, they'll be there in the next however many minutes, right? So, you know, that alerting becomes a better way to, you know, we're talking about easy to do business. How easy is that you're already calling them, letting them know that, hey, I understand something's going on. I'm taking care of it already.
Your clients also want to hold you accountable and want your employees to be held accountable. So accountability is something you want to be able to figure out how you can manage with your employees. You know, what happens when you send temp staff out to your client's location, and those staff take advantage of your client? They say, oh, this is an easy payday, right? They might alter their hours. They might figure out how to use buddy punching, have someone else punch in for them. They lie about their breaks, you know, even submit false workers' comp claims. You need to make sure that your client feels 100% sure that you have their back and you can disapprove any type of claims that an employee has or any type of get rid of and stop any type of time stop. So how do you do that? Well, you use time collection devices that use biometric technology. You know who's punching in and out. You use analytics to identify and clarify any inconsistency or discrepancy. So you can see a lot of times the biometrics is your first line of defense. Analytics, in time and labor analytics specifically, is your second line of defense, because that's where you can start to see the what do they call it, John, the ghost people?
Yeah, ghost payrolls.
Ghost payroll, right? And you can see things like that. You can see trends that just don't make sense, right? And that's an analytics. Using attestation questions when they punch out at the end of the day. Hey, did you have a safe work day? To account for any incidents or accidents that occurred for the day of. That's critical too. So all of these help unsubstantiate false claims and show your clients that you really are a true partner. Well, I'd like to show you some things, and John has just been dancing in his chair here because he wants to show you how we can address some of these things that we're talking about. So, John, why don't we get into a demonstration, and we'll try to point out in the solution, in the ePay solution, where we can address things specifically.
For sure. And we'll start first in the onboarding, right? Because what we want to be able to do is we want to be able to show how easy, you know, it would be for somebody to be onboarded, because that takes a lot of time, right? If they can do it ahead of time, it's even better. So as we log into the system here, and I log in, you know, we're able to get into, you know, the onboarding piece, which is going to define everything that they need to get done, from their I-9s to filling out their employee information, adding direct deposit accounts, filling out their tax forms electronically, being able to view videos to sign off or sign off on, you know, employee handbooks. So everything that would normally be given to them in a paper packet, you're able to do it online electronically, right? And they can do that from home. You could have it set up as a kiosk at your place of work there. So it can be done in different places. It just doesn't have to be done, you know, that first day of the work, right? So you can get all that paperwork out of the way, and they're already ready to go to start out with that client, right? So really being able to go through your I-9 and fill out all that information that you need to for last name, first name, my address, is everything, am I a citizen or am I not? Providing the documentation, et cetera, but also giving them access to be able to download that data in the system as well, right? So that they have a paper copy of it if they want one as well, or even electronic copy, right? Because you can download and print here, right? But also, I also want to ask these various questions as well, right? What's my disability status, my race and ethnicity, veteran status, right? I fill out my tax forms. Guess what? I want this to give me a wizard to tell me, okay, this is what we're going to start with, right? We'll start out with federal, and now I'm going to go through a survey here, and now it's just asking me, are we continuing in English? Yes. Am I filling this out for right now? Yep. And we're going through, and we're just answering questions. So what this does is instead of looking at a paper form that says IRS right at the top of it, this is what I see. It's less intimidating to fill out answers when they're just asking you questions. Are you exempt from federal withholding? Do you want to fill out the personal allowances worksheet? And I can see my workflow here, right? This is what I've completed here, and it's telling me what's coming up next, right? So now we're entering in our allowances, and then also the additional amounts that we're going to take out. I select next, and now guess what? I'm not handwriting this information. I know that a 1 is a 1 and it's not a 2, right? Or an 8 might be a 6 or a 9, etc. I have all that within here, and I'm electronically signing off on it again, right? And this is all going to be part of my employee profile. So all of this is very helpful, right? Now, post-implementation, you also still want to have them be able to go in and do some of the same things, right? So as we log into the employee self-service, now we start to see, I've got messages in here. They want to be able to view their pay stubs in here, right? Even if they need to go back in previous years, you want to be able to give them easy access to do that. But guess what? It also saves you time from a payroll and HR standpoint, because if they call you, you can tell them, hey, yeah, certainly, I can go and look this up for you. But remember, you have your employee self-service that you can go into. You can go into it at any point in time. That way you can get the information that you need, right? And giving them that kind of access to also see either, what kind of benefits they're elected into, or also, just what is it costing me, per pay period, right? And I can see that information very easily, right? Also, I can, look at documents that are in there, or maybe I want to download my W-2s, right, or change my withholdings in here. Maybe I have to give my last 2 years of W-2s. I have the ability to go download that without having to go again to HR to download that. It's giving them the easy access, but also being able to give them easy access where, you're able to access this from a smartphone or tablet, right? And it goes ahead and adjusts however you need it to go. So if I want to go and look at my pay here, I can look at my pay history now, and I can see my previous pay. And as we zoom back out of this, you'll see it's adjusting, right? But now I can see, what am I making? If I want to do my pay stub, I want to see a breakdown of what this actually is. I want to see the taxes that were withheld in here along with the deductions. I'm able to see that information, and then even if I still need to download my pay stub, I can download my pay stub, all right? So this is really from a front end from the employee, right? Now they're ready to work, right? Now they're at the client. You need to be able to make it easy for those employees to punch in and punch out. So we're talking about giving different ways to collect time, whether it's a time clock, but also using biometrics on the time clock to make sure that it is the right person that's actually punching in and punching out. The other thing is you want the biometrics to move from one clock to another so that I don't have to re-register them each time I reassign them somewhere, right? You want that data to flow as it needs. And that becomes less burden of maintenance in terms of administrative services to register each time they're on site, right? But also being able to communicate to the clocks as well, right? We're talking about being able to download a document. Well, with the clock, you can actually send a message down to the clock, hey, customer notified that this area wasn't clean today or yesterday. Please, make sure that we clean that area. Or allowing them to view their PTO PTO balance from the time clock and request time off through there. Or even just to see their in and out times directly from the time clocks and view their timesheets and sign off on them. You know, those are all different things that are helpful for the employee, not only just from an employee self-service tool for, you know, online, but also being able to do some of those same things from the time clock, all right? Now, when we start talking about the mobile app, right, the mobile app allows us to go in and view a lot of different things, right? So as we log into the system here, things to remember is that we want to be able to view this information, have a multilingual support. I have English and Spanish on here. The employee self-service is English and Spanish as well. So, you know, you have language options in here. And, you know, just for fun, we'll actually do this in Spanish. So when I go ahead and I log in here, right, it's going to go ahead because I have facial recognition turned on, and I'm going to verify myself here, right? I go ahead and verify myself. It tells me I'm good. Now I can go ahead and I can clock in and I can clock out. I can punch in and out for lunches as well when we want to keep track of that information. I can do a group punch if I want a manager to punch in other employees, right? Because that might be an option where not everybody has a smartphone with them. We want to be able to let that manager punch them in. Or maybe you want to allocate time to different things that they worked on, right? Or you want them to view their schedules in here, right? They can view their schedules in here. That's not the schedules. But they can go in there and see that information, right? So here, if I want to see when am I scheduled to work, I can see that I'm scheduled to work on these days, right? And if you want them to confirm that, yes, I'm going to show up for these, you know, you want them to be able to do that. Or if you want to allow them to do any kind of shift bidding or shift swapping, you want to give them an easy platform to be able to do that, right? But also when you look at being able to look at notifications, sending and receiving messages to and from my manager, but also reviewing timesheets on here so that I can go through and I can see that, you know, this is my total hours by day here, and I can also see the dollar amounts, and then I can also sign off on this, right? I can even get a wet signature for this. So I have that ability to do that. But also you want to be able to ensure that the employee's on site. You don't want them just clocking in from anywhere. And that's where GPS comes into play, where you have the ability for that employee to punch into where they're going to be punching into. And they can go ahead and they can also select work orders so you can get into that fine detail. They can also enter comments in here as well. Now, when I go to save this in here, it's going to have me take another picture of myself just because I have this turned on. But also in here, we have the ability for them to download the documents and see, okay, what do I have to do here, right? Now, the other things with the GPS, though, we want to be able to smart filter for them so that they're selecting the right things at the right times so that there's less thought for them of, okay, am I really working at Sears Tower or am I working at Soldier Field, right? Yes, I did say Sears Tower. But the other thing we do is that we can also do geo exceptions, right? Maybe you still want to allow them to punch in, but you want to be notified if they are outside of an acceptable punch radius. Or you want to do geofencing where you don't let them punch in unless they're in the actual prescribed area. Maybe you want to track them throughout the day, right? So you want to be able to do those different things. We also want to capture additional information, whether it's an accident-free day question, whether you're entering in mileage, tip amounts, or whatever that case is. You may want to gather that additional information. So you want to have a system that can also ask questions when they punch out as well.
So some pretty neat things in the mobile app alone that can help your employees feel like they have more control. They can see their schedule on the go, right on their phone. They can sign off on their hours. So every payroll, they can sign up their hours and actually do a signature. And they can see documents. So if they get a new assignment and they're showing up somewhere for the first time, they can pull up on their phone a task list of what to do exactly at that site. Especially kind of nice if they can't get a hold of somebody. And you could have that in Spanish, right, or whatever language you needed it. So pretty important in terms of just in a mobile solution, things that help make your employees feel like they've got more control of what's in front of them.
Right. And you also want to be able to have them sign off on their in and out times if there was a change, right?
Yeah.
So giving them access to see that information, but then also say, yeah, I'm good with that, right? Now I also have something in here for a meal break exception where I missed a meal break. Well, I can give a reason for why I missed that meal break. That way, you know, the appropriate rules can be applied based off of that information.
And that builds trust. It builds trust between, you know, you and your employee when they can see, okay, yep, that was made for a real reason, and I can see everything like that. That changed in my time, you know. Very important stuff. You know, the other thing that John, you just mentioned before you got into that was during onboarding. You went over it quickly, but I want to reiterate that the whole system is able to bring up the right tax form, depending on where you live and where your work location is, so that your employees get taxed right. That is a nightmare to figure out if you are a company that is, you know, all over the U.S. So that's pretty critical in getting paid right.
Oh, for sure. Because ultimately, if the employee's, you know, not getting taxed the right way and they owe money at the end of the year, who are they going to be mad at, right? So, but as we move forward in here and we start looking more from back end and how we look at different time things and setup and other items in here, right? So I log in, I'm looking at a dashboard. What does that do for a manager? It gives them easy access to view different pieces of information, right? I've got exceptions. I want to take care of those exceptions. I'm going over my labor budget. I want to know about that, right? So whether it's your client that gets to see this information, because you can give them access to that, or whether it's, you know, the managers that are on site that get to see that information, right? This labor budget piece is huge, right? This helps me stay within my labor budget so that I know whether or not I'm being profitable or I'm not. And what I hear a lot from customers that are coming in from a manual process or don't have the ability to set up a budget, they're doing it manually and they're doing it after the pay period has ended. That does them no good, right? And that's why that budget piece becomes important, because you want to stay ahead of it so that you can stay under that labor budget. Now, the other thing too is you want to make it easy to be able to navigate, right? I've got one exception in here. I want to be able to go in. I want to see where that exception is, right? Because this is something that's going to be important for me. I don't want to run around to find exceptions, right? Because I may be looking through hundreds of punches, and I just want to see, you know, these are the things that I need to take care of. In my case here, this employee punched outside of acceptable punch rates. Okay, well, where was he? And I open this up, and I can see exactly this is where he was, and I zoom out, I zoom in, I can see exactly where he was when he punched in, right? So where I'm supposed to be versus where I am. And I can see that all within here, right? Even if I want to put up satellite view, I can bring up that satellite view as well. Right? Now, also keeping track of audit trails. I make a change to an employee's punch. I want to be able to see who, I want to be able to see when, I need to be able to see what. But then also you want to have a reason code for why this is happening, because that's an important piece of the puzzle, because I can tell, you know, Department of Labor, hey, these are the changes. I changed this on this date and it was by this person. Well, why'd you do that? If you don't have that information, you're kind of dead in the water. You just change it, but you have no proof as to why you made that change, right? Now, as you look at, you know, further details in here, right, you need to be able to have an engine that accurately looks at different permutations of the employee's hours, right? So if I bring up Soldier Field here, I can bring this up and I can see the employees that work at Soldier Field, right? And as I'm looking at the information, I can see this is where they work, maintenance, tree care, cleaner, etc. But I also get to see, okay, this is their rate of pay, and by the way, it's being applied based off of their position. Oh, great, this person's got some overtime. Well, how is this being calculated, right? Especially if he has two different rates of pay, you want to be able to apply a blended overtime rate calculation so that they're accurately getting paid and you're not paying them too much or too little, right? Again, staying within your labor budget. You'll see these billing rates in here as well, right? I have this enabled on my system, and we can turn, you can turn things on and off that's needed. So maybe somebody doesn't have access to the billing rates in the system. They don't see that in here, right? But also you have employees that work in different areas, right? But they only have one manager at Soldier Field. He only sees the employees that work at Soldier Field. But he's looking at the information. He's trying to figure out, well, why does this employee have overtime? Well, guess what? I can show them that information that, hey, yeah, we worked at Soldier Field, but he also worked at California campus. This is why he's got some overtime. again, giving your managers the power to see that information so that they're not having to call HR or payroll every week, and there's a queue of people that are trying to get answers. So it alleviates time from payroll and HR, but also from the manager standpoint because they can see all that data within here, right? But then also you want to have workflow. You want to have the accountability. Manager reviews the data. They say, yeah, this looks good. They're going to be submitting their timesheets, right? One thing that comes up too, though, is that we're submitting the timesheet. What about that client? What are they doing, right? Are they the ones that are going to be responsible for submitting the timesheet, or do we not want them to hold up the process for payroll? And do we want them to just verify that, yeah, these hours are accurate, or if they're not accurate, to let us know about it, that, yeah, I reject these hours because they're not accurate. So being able to see that information, we'll get more into that in just a little bit, but you want to have a workflow that makes sense, but you also don't want your customers holding up payroll for you, right? Because what interest do they really have of getting it done for you on time when you have a deadline of Wednesday because the employees get paid on Friday? They don't have a whole lot, right? So allowing them to do it after the fact that it's already been submitted, great. If they get to it on Thursday to approve those hours or verify those hours, then so be it. I still need to pay my employees based off of what I have in the system. All right. Now, you also want to be able to make things easy to understand. You want to be notified of different things, right? I have an alert that comes up that says, if I'm over my labor budget, let me know about it, right? In my case here, I have it at 75%. Why do I do that? Because I want to stay on top of it. I don't want to get over my budget and then be notified. I want to get to, maybe 95% is more logical, right? Or 96% or 99.99%. I want to get as close to that so that I don't go over that labor budget, but I don't want to go into the system every day to see how am I doing against it. I want to be alerted that, hey, this is critical for me here. Now, what can I do about it? Maybe I reschedule people, right? I schedule somebody else who, maybe I schedule more hours, but I schedule somebody that has a less wage rate in there so I can stay within my dollars, right? I can also do a critical employee alert. We talked about wanting to know, did somebody show up, or if they're early, or if they're late. Having that phone call ahead of time that says, hey, I know I'm supposed to have 20 people here, but I only have 19. Okay, well, who's missing, right? Now, you don't have an alert that's being sent to you. Again, you're getting a phone call from your client telling you, hey, I only have 19 people here. Okay, well, now I have to go and do an on-premise report. I'll get back to you, Mr. Customer. And I'm going to figure out, okay, well, who's here and who's not here, right? Be alerted to that so that you can stay on top of it, so that you can take advantage of knowing that and, having that conversation of, yeah, I know John's not here. I've got Joe coming in. He's going to be there in the next 10 minutes. You're covered. Don't worry. I've got you.
The eyes. Gives you the eyes that you may not have if you don't have a system or they can punch in and out and get that data back to you real time.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. If you have 100 employees, even if you have 20 employees, knowing whether or not they're there or not is very critical, right? Because that's very important. You have your service level agreements that you want to make sure that they're there, and this minimum employee alert is used heavily by our customers because, you're working overnight. Is somebody going to be awake, monitoring the system to see, is everybody here? No, they want to be alerted of this. And we've had customers tell us that this has saved them because, they get that alert and they've had that phone call. Yeah, I understand. Now I've got somebody coming in. All right. Now, we were talking earlier too, we've got, alerts that let you be alerted when certain things happen, but also being able to configure a system, right, without having to, do a whole lot. So, you get a new client. That's the other thing too, right? You get a new client, they have a whole set of different needs versus another. So you want to be able to have a system that allows you to toggle between the various accounts. So you'll see I've already got a couple of accounts in here, but if I want to add a new account, I can easily come into here and I can, add a new account into the system. And when I add that in here, I have that ability to enter in all the appropriate information, but now I also have the ability to set up some of my settings. Are we enabling, the mobile punch or web punch, right? Or, are we enabling verification for this customer or are we not? What are some of those payroll settings? Are we going to not allow the person that submits it or not approve it? Do we have any kind of site settings that we want to enable, right? Are we auto-determining whenever we add a new site in there, the new geo coordinates, right? Or are we automatically generating location numbers? There's a lot of different settings that you can look at just off the bat, but there's a lot of other things that you can do as well, right? I want to set up a pay group, that the pay group is going to tell me information around, hey, I've got these settings that I'm going to set up, right? Or maybe that particular customer has a very weird pay period. Maybe it's 11 o'clock on a Thursday. That's the start of their new pay period versus just midnight on a Thursday, right? Those different things and being able to configure a system versus having to call, a company to say, hey, I need this to be done. And it takes them a couple of weeks to get it done, right? You have the ability to configure things within here, all the way down to your overtime policy, right? Whether I'm doing a bi-weekly one here or I'm saying a weekly, and maybe the first week it's 40 hours, and that's not a good example, but maybe it's 36 hours, and then the following week it's 48 hours, and that's going to constitute overtime. Or you need to be able to set up a consecutive days worked rule in here very easily, right? Or I need a daily overtime and a daily double time. So being able to configure those, but also being able to set up shift differential rules and being able to add them in various ways, right? So here I've got my pay group level. I can, do a rate mapping in here, so I can map ST to something else if I need to. Maybe I want to map OT to maybe a sick time or something like that. You have the ability to do those different things, but also determine, okay, hey, the shift differential is going to be, additional dollar plus, a 2% additional, right? And by the way, it's between 8 p.m. and 6 a.m. that this is going to be valid for on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Saturdays, right? So being able to have flexibility in how those rules can be set up is also important, but also being able to set them up very easily and very quickly. Those are things that you need to be looking for. Now, we were talking about being able to switch accounts, right? So, and verifying. So here I've got two different companies that I've got access to as an administrator or even as a manager, and you can set up rules that say, hey, this person's in charge of, these 20 clients. They're going to see that information, but they don't have access to the other 10 clients. So as I switch my corporations in here, right, now I'm into my system. It's actually taking me into my preferences. But now I've got timesheets in here that when I open this up, right, and I'll go back to the previous week here. But I can see here that I've actually already submitted this, and I see the verification is pending, right? So as I open this up, I'm able to see, okay, these are the employees' punches here. These are the details in here. But I see statuses, right? I know I'm in a submitted state, but I also have this verification that's pending. And I want to be able to give access for that client to go in and view that data, but I don't want them to hold up my payroll process. Well, guess what? They can log into the system. They can be notified that, hey, timesheets have been submitted. It's ready to be viewed. And now they can go into the system and they can view individually in here, right? Or if they just want to do a mass verification from here, they can do it that way as well. But I can open up these reporting periods in here, and now I see this information, right? I see the employees' hours that they worked. So they all both worked 40 hours, which is great. I see the rates. I see the billing rates in here. I can see all that information. And now I can say, you know what? This is actually not correct. I want to reject it, right? I can put a reason for why I'm rejecting it. Or I want to add in additional comments in there, right? Or I want to add an attachment. So we'll add a quick attachment in here. All right. So I'll just pick something random in here, and we'll add that in, right? So now you'll see there's this little icon next to it. I've got an attachment. Here, I've got a message. The same employee, though, you know what I'm going to do? We're going to verify their timesheet. just to let you know, George was outstanding today, right? They can add additional notes in here. So now I see I've got an attachment, I've got a note, this one's verified, this one's rejected, right? So if I go back now, you'll see my verification process is mixed. And as I refresh the page over here, I can start to see this over here. This was rejected. Okay, well, why was this rejected? And I can see that information in here, right? I want to look at the comment behind it, right? I added an S in there for the comment, right? That's my comment. Here, this one's verified. Great. Oh, George did a great job last week. That's great, you know? So you're able to see that. Oh, they also attach a document for me? Let me look at that document. Being able to see that information, you know, is very helpful on both ends, not just from the client standpoint, but also from your standpoint as well, because they're going to have more information for you because they're on site. They know what's going on with the employees.
And there's nothing better than good communication between you and your client to create that partnership and connection. All right. Well, there are a lot of things that, you know, we probably could have shown more today, but we are getting towards the top of our hour. I do have a couple of questions that have come in, though, John, that I think maybe you might could cover. First one is on clocks, and I know you mentioned this briefly, but, you know, the question is, can you register at just one clock, and then that's good for all the clocks at all the sites and other devices? How does that work with ePay?
Yeah, so when you register once on a clock, it propagates down to different clocks that are out there that they're assigned to. If they're not assigned to it, then that information is not there. So the answer to the question is yes, it does go from clock to clock as long as they're assigned to those clocks.
The other question that came in is scheduling. Does ePay have a scheduling module associated with their time and labor?
Yeah, we do, and there's a lot of functionality behind the scheduling, from being able to create templates to identifying, you know, who the right people might be in terms of, you know, scheduling by proximity, or allowing the employees to bid on shifts, or looking at qualifications, so you're scheduling the right people in the right places. So there's a lot of functionality behind it so that, you know, you can schedule your employees effectively.
And then the last question I see is regarding open enrollment. Can ePay support open enrollment? And then what kind of information is shown to the employees regarding the different benefit plans? Right.
So, you know, ePay does have a benefit enrollment platform that can be utilized. Again, mobile friendly for that as well, so they can do it, access it from their smartphone or tablet or at home on a computer. But they have the ability to see the various plans that are offered to them. They can see the cost behind it. They can compare plans. They can download summary of benefit documents. We start looking at other things like group term life, where there may be, you know, some evidence of insurability documents that need to be filled out, and if there's an additional cost because they're going over the limits in there, they can see all of that directly in there, so that they can make the educated decisions around, you know, their benefits.
And then, I'm sorry, just one more came in. In terms of employees approving hours, you showed it on the mobile. Mm-hmm. Is there other time collection devices or other tools that they can look at? Yeah,
so they can review their timesheets and approve them on the time clocks, on the mobile, as well as a web punch, right? Because IDR, they're not going to sit there for 10 minutes listening to their hours and rates and then sign off.
Right.
So,
okay.
And one other piece too is, you know, being able to integrate with other systems as well, right? Your customer may be using some other system, but you still need to pay the employees. So versus calling it in, faxing it over, and then somebody inputting it into the system, or sending a spreadsheet, and when you're importing it, you know, maybe it is that easy as they send a spreadsheet you import into the system, or there's an integration that can be easily built between other systems back into ePay as well.
Okay. Well, that's probably helpful for a lot of folks on the line. Well, those are some good questions. Thank you, everybody. I just want to put up there on the screen all the different modules that we have in our full suite human capital management solution. We didn't even talk about applicant tracking, but that really doesn't necessarily bring benefit to your employees and retain your employees, so we didn't. But we have a very easy-to-use applicant tracking solution that is integrated with key job boards out there, so you can easily post a job and get your applicants in quickly and then talk to them via SMS or email. Again, in the hourly workforce, being able to talk to applicants quickly using text is really important to get them when you're trying to track them. Our HR management system, really the key thing there is the onboarding tools, which John showed you a little bit about, but of course it gives you all the type of tools you need to run your business, from tracking skills and the reporting to OSHA and veterans and different folks, or different reports that are required in HR management tools. Benefit management. We also have a good benefit management system that John alluded to. We didn't really have time to look through, but it allows you to handle open enrollment and gives your employees a way to compare different plans and make some good decisions there. Time and labor, and obviously in payroll, is really key to addressing having accurate payroll. Hopefully you got a good feel of some of the flexibility that our time and labor solution has. And then when it comes to payroll, being able to handle taxes right and manage garnishments and things like that. And then finally, performance management and learning management, we have that also. For many of you, learning management is becoming more important because, for instance, in the state of California, everyone has to take sexual harassment class. So you need a learning management tool that allows you to basically turn it on, have everybody take the class, and then after that, really not have a huge cost for the rest of the year. That's something we do. So we've tailored our solution throughout keeping your type of workforce in mind. So we would love to give you some more information about ePay. John does very, very good personalized demonstrations. So when you end this call today, we're going to ask you to fill out a quick survey. Let us know how we did. See if you'd like to take a tour or a demo of our system. Just let us know, and we will get back to you right away and give you a personalized demonstration. So thanks, John, very much for joining me today and helping us talk about this important topic of how to retain employees in this difficult environment we're in and retain our clients. Thank you.
Thanks, Michelle. Thank you, everybody that joined us today. Really appreciate it. So.
At ePay, we'd like to be your human capital management solution provider. Thank you for joining us and giving us your hour of time. Have a great rest of your day. Thank you.